What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of Timeout with Sko. I'm here with Coach Bryan Bartley. He has been a coach for over 30 years. He's worked as an assistant at Auburn University. He was a head coach at Montrose Christian High School. He was also in the front office for the Atlanta Hawks, and he's worked a number of elite camps for LeBron James, Kyrie Irving, Anthony Davis. And I just want to say thank you so much for being here today.
Appreciate it, always. You, anything.
I appreciate you. I love your hat, by the way.
That's right. Are you hungry? Remember that.
Yeah, we're going to touch on that throughout the episode. But talk to me, start me a little bit with your journey. I know some of it because I know you personally and we've talked about it. But I think you have a really unique story and upbringing. So talk about that and how that's kind of shaped who you are and how you got into coaching through your journey.
Yeah. So it starts in New York City. I played, and then of course, when my career was over, I decided to start working. I started working in Atlanta. I was in Atlanta trying out for the Hawks, and then ended up working for the Atlanta Hawks. I was in the front office for about 5-6 years, and then I went into a new organization that just got off the ground called Atlanta Celtics, which is very prestige. And at the time, we had so many great players coming out of there, and when I was there, with Donnell Harvey and, we had from Donnell Harvey to Dwight Howard to Randolph Morris, Josh Smith, numerous guys, George. So all those guys came through the Atlanta Celtics, and I started when they first got off the ground, and that was kind of the footprint of me coaching. Okay. I started coaching 17 on the second team. Wallace Prather and Carl McRae allowed me to kind of get my feet, indulge in it. And then I was exposed to going to ABCD camp and do all those things, and exposed to colleges. And then my first high school job was Landmark Christian School when I had Randolph Morris. And we played a huge game on ESPN against Dwight Howard, and that blew up, and then my career really took off. And then started going to Auburn. I was at Auburn University as an assistant for Jeff Lebo. Then I came back. I did a lot of Skills Academy, the Kyrie Irving camp in Jersey, Anthony Davis Big Man camp, Kevin Durant camp in D.C., and then LeBron James. And then after that, I went back to coaching again in high school in Georgia. And then I started coaching girls as well with Antonio Davis called the Georgia Ice, who had numerous big-time girls, Lexi Brown, Kayla Davis, Diamond Shields. All those girls were playing on the same team. And so I did that, and then coached at a place called Hebron Christian Academy. I was the AD and a coach, coached girls, did about 2-3 years, and then I had an opportunity to go to Maryland to coach Montrose Christian School, which kind of really propelled my career again. And with that team, I coached there for 2 years. We were 15-9, top 25 in the country. We won a national Christian championship, and I had 3 pros on that team: Alondra Touret, Pat McCall, and Jarrell Brantley. Along with my son who played for me. My 2 sons played with me as well. And that was for 2 years, and then I left again to coach again in Washington, D.C. And then from there, we won the championship the first year in D.C., and then stayed there for a while, and then here in California.
Now you're out here.
I'm out here now.
What's been the most enjoyable level for you to coach, and why?
I would say, not the NBA, college. College, because you can kind of put your footprint a little bit on the kids. They're still developing, still learning. What I do like about college is that you're getting kids who want to play, and you're recruiting kids who want to play, and kids know why they're there. High school, you get a mixture, because you're going to have some kids who they may not want to play college basketball. And then once you get to the pros, it's kind of tough. They now become who they already are, so you really not, I think.
Managing personalities.
There you go. I was going to say it's managing, not coaching. You took it out of my mouth. You got it.
Yeah. So, in regards to your experiences, like I said, you've worked a number of camps, you worked at a number of different places. What's been the most valuable experience for you coaching-wise, and how have you taken what you've learned from that experience and implement it now wherever you go?
That's a good question, Sean. That's a real good one. It was good. You got me on that one.
I took some time to think about that.
No, you did, because you said the most valuable. I think there was 2 valuable shifts in my career. The first one is ABCD camp. The exposure of what Sonny Vaccaro does and the numerous talent that are so good that there weren't a platform at the time it is now for kids to be at one place, one time, playing high level. That was incredible. That's probably the most incredible experience. The second one for me was being able to attend college practices as a high school coach, because you're allowed to see what the finish line looked like, because it prepares you to have a transition from where you are to where they need to go. And that's good for you because now you get to see what the finish line look like, and now you get to see, are my kids prepared for that level? So you watch a practice, you go back and say, oh my goodness, we got a lot of work to do. So I would say those are the two pivotals for me as far as experience.
When you talk about preparation, right? We're at core prep every day.
Right.
And, one of the things that you really try to instill in the kids is how important preparation is.
Right.
Now, at this age, it's very hard for the kids to kind of understand, like, what it really takes to be professional, to be a professional. Can you, from your experiences, share, like, what you think it takes to be a professional in this sport, whether it's playing overseas or playing in the NBA? And what do you think is missing within this generation that could help players achieve that success?
I think our players are short-sighted. They're sprinters. They see what's in front of them. They see scouting in front of them, NIL money in front of them, and they can only see that. They can't see the long haul. And what they do is they measure themselves for where they are now, not where they're going to be later on. It's like going to a cross-country meet. That's the best analogy. You take somebody cross-country meet and you let them watch, and if the kid is what they're watching, you get to see kids go in the woods, but the first two people in the woods doesn't mean the first two are going to come out. But it's a long run. It's not one of them runs where it's short. It's a long, long run. And the thing is, the parents who can understand that it's a process. It's the one who indulges in the process says, I know it's a process. I'm not going to look to the left or right, but we're going to continue chop wood and carry water. And that's the issue with our kids. Everything is instant, everything is microwave, and everything is now. And if they don't see progression now, they don't. And the worst thing to do for some kids is this, though. Whenever you're working hard, right, and you run into challenges, you start to doubt the process. You start to say the process, I don't know if this process is working. What they don't understand is like a seed. When you plant a seed into the ground, it actually grows in two directions at the same time. So it's growing in to build a foundation, but it's also growing to come up top, and it actually is going to split the ground, and you're going to be able to see it. What happens in the seed is that you can put a seed in the ground, and for a while you may not even see it come out, but it's still growing. The foundation is growing. That's the strength of it, though. See, these trees you see around here, that's trees been through a lot of earthquakes and weather through all of California, but it's still there because the foundation's strong. What's happening is our kids don't have strong foundation, so that we willow when a storm hits. When a challenge hits, we're gone. And the first thing something hits, they can't sustain it because we haven't built a long foundation. You'll see that plant kind of break the ground later on, and that's when you start to see the outcome of all the work you've done. And they want to see that quickly. That's the difference.
Yeah, that's extremely well said. And I think to touch on what you're saying, parents and home life are part of that equation.
Yes.
Talk about, for you, what you've noticed in this day and age of parenting that you think is sort of like attributing to the culture of, I would say, like, trying to take away adversity from kids,
Right.
trying to protect kids in a lot of ways,
Right.
and how that's actually hurting and not helping them.
Well, you're right on point with me because you know how we talk. So, Sean, I appreciate it. But the thing for me is this, though, Sean, is this. It's we don't want to see, the worst thing for a parent when you become parents is to see your kid struggle, right? But struggle builds character. And the biggest thing is a turtle. When a turtle is born, when it breaks its egg and it has to go in, a turtle has to learn to crawl up the hill into the ocean to survive. Now, if you're one of our parents, these parents these days, a turtle breaks the egg, they pick up the turtle. If you take that same turtle, pick it up and put it into the ocean, it's going to die. Because part of the process is learning to use its legs. Part of the process is learning to go through this process of going from where it's cracked the egg into the water and up the hill. And what we do in the parents now is we take that away. We don't want to see them struggle. So we do everything we can so that they don't do anything. And they don't realize that's the foundation about that plant again. But there's no foundation. So when the first thing hits, I'm not playing, something is wrong, coach didn't pay me, I'm coming off the bench, I didn't score 30 points, now I'm rattled because they don't understand the process. That's the difference between the two.
I want to touch back on what you said about preparation and how we were talking about that on the player side.
Right.
Knowing you, and we've had tons of conversations, I've got to see a lot of your like paperwork stuff, of scouting reports and different sorts of practice plans, and I've got to come to a practice and see how you run that practice. How do you prepare? And how has preparation helped you achieve success at all the stops that you've been at?
Well, of course, organization. It's important to be organized, and there's also to be structure. They say a man who fails to plan is planning to fail. So like the kids have to see that I'm coming in with a plan. You can't do anything without a plan. And the biggest problem with some of these kids is that, think about it. Even when you work kids out, do you have a plan of where they are and where they need to be? Because they have to have a plan. And we don't do that. Another thing we don't do, we don't measure where they are so they can get ahead. And the thing about me when I'm coaching is I need to measure. I try to measure how their effort is. I measure how they run in suicides. I measure how early they come to practice. I measure all those things. And the only way to measure is to be organized. And so we have a hustle chart. And the hustle chart could be being in the right place, talking on defense. And then we do a subtraction and we add all the other, we subtract from the negative, from not boxing out, turn the ball over. But we also give them points from assists and steals and talking. And then those are the things in between that they don't do. They got to run. But the key for me is to make sure they're organized and that they can see a practice to what it's going to look like at the next level. Because the more I do that, the quicker the transition is when they get there. So think about it. If a kid comes from a great high school program, right? From when he gets to school and starts the season, from that time and that point in November when they start to December, they're a freshman. But when they come from a great program, after that Christmas break, they're now a sophomore. And you start to see the kids progress. Kids who come from a bad program, they're freshmen the whole time because they're learning the whole time. If I can take my program, shrink it to a college level program and make sure that they see what it's like at the next level, they're going to transition to a place that they know already. Oh, we do have skill development. Oh, we do, we have rehab work. We got strength and condition, film. All those things that you're going to elaborate to allow them to see, they get a chance to go in and say, you know what, I've been there, I've done that. I know what it's like. I know how it is. But if they haven't had it, they're starting all over. If a kid's first time to see film is in college, imagine that. He has to pick up everything when he gets there. So that's the difference, though.
Thinking about just your stops along the journey, you've got to be a part of different cultures, and you've also got to set different cultures. What cultures, or what are the characteristics of the cultures that you have been a part of and that you have also set and implemented? Like, what sorts of things do you think are most valuable in a part of the culture? And do you try to implement on the teams that you coach?
That's a good one. I would say, I'm going to be quite honest with you. My son played at Virginia for Tony Bennett. He did some things that I thought was unbelievable. And then Jeff Lebo, I learned a ton of stuff from Coach Lebo because I learned preparation was key at Lebo. Now, I don't think there was ever a game we weren't prepared. We were always prepared, but that's North Carolina. And North Carolina does a good job with that too. And then I had a chance to be with Timmy O'Toole and allowed to watch practice at Duke and take some things what Coach K do. So I thought Coach K is not, and everybody talk about the benefit of Coach K's coaching, but they don't talk about his structure and his culture. And the one thing I would tell you that I've learned from North Carolina Duke is a culture. Because when you look at it, you say that's a Carolina kid or that's a Duke kid. Every program, you can't say that's that kind of kid. Some programs just recruit kids. But there's some programs that recruit culture, and culture makes a difference. That was probably the biggest thing that I learned about trying to build a program is that you have to have culture. Culture will sustain anything because culture is about a program. Now, you can win because you have a good team. You got a bunch of guys, they end up playing together, they do well, you won, good team. Program, because that program is they're good every year. They do a good job. They're there for the right reasons. Everybody understands it. And then the biggest thing, too, is rules without relationship, kids will rebel. If you have rules and no relationship, then they're going to rebel. And sometimes you may think you have a relationship. Like there's been possibilities that I thought I was in a relationship, but I wasn't. I thought the kid really understood, but he really didn't understand me. But I would always tell you, if you have rules and you don't have a relationship, players will always rebel. And I learned a big one on that with Tony Bennett. Like, you got to have a relationship with the kids you're having these rules with. So the two biggest things I would say that I gravitated from was culture and then your rules and relationship. Those are two things that I think I learned the most of.
How do you get your players to buy into that culture, right? And like when you've recruited before as well, like how do you determine if that player is going to be a good fit for the culture you're trying to build?
That's a really good question. I think turmoil. I think challenges. I think going through things is no different than how do you know your relationship is good with your best friend? How do you know relationship with your mom? You get better through turmoil relationship because they either bring you closer or further apart. It's not going to be the good things. It's going to be the bad things. Because when you're going through some bad things, you know if they're there and they're not there. You know what I'm saying? And so for me, boot camp was one. Creating a boot camp on our system where kids had to go through a boot camp for 4 days allowed them to know, hey, they're going to build blocks to be able to be together. And the biggest thing is a retreat. You got to do a retreat. You got to take them away, get everybody off the books, and start talking about things that have nothing to do with basketball. So the biggest thing for me, boot camp and a retreat. And in retreat, what we do is, kids get a chance to stand up, talk about, hey, listen, what am I willing to give of myself to be part of this group? And then we throw it in the fire, and then we keep the ashes. Because they need to know, hey, and then we keep the ashes all year. And those ashes represent, I was willing to give part of myself to be something bigger than that.
We talked about buy-in. So now you got the player that's bought in. Now, how do you get your players to sort of now lead the culture, right? You've created the culture, but now how do you get them to lead that culture? Because, we've talked about culture is always strongest when it's led by people on the team,
True.
Right? Coaches are essentially there to guide and help and,
True.
Provide a structure, but the most successful teams are the teams where players are holding each other accountable. How do you create that type of environment for players to be able to do that?
Well, it's tough. You can't do it right away. Like for me, in my situation of leaving so early, you can't create a culture that fast. It takes 2 or 3 years, and it starts with the young ones. It's your freshmen and your sophomores going to build a culture for you, because they're going to embody what you want, and they're going to start to tell everybody else what it's going to be like. And then you find a leader out of them, but you have to empower that leader. You have to have meetings with that leader. You got to have conversations with that leader can be able to go back to the team and discuss. And then you have to give them an opportunity for them to be able to lead for real. And people think leaders telling people what to do. Leading is serving. They have to serve their teammates. And that's the thing about it. We do the opposite from society. We go, no, you got to go over there. That's not leading. Leading is serving. Leading is making sure everybody's good first and then you're last, because they know you're going to serve them. And we have to teach our kids how to do that. But the biggest thing is you have to find the ones who are the biggest vocal ones to be able to lead your team. And sometimes sometimes they're vocal, but they use it for a negative approach. You got to flip it so that they can use it for the positive. You can find good things in what they do and try to change it for them so they can lead in the right way.
You're spitting gems right now.
No,
this is really good stuff. I want to talk more about habits. And for you, if you're looking at a player, or if you had an ideal player, or if somebody asked you, hey, what are habits that I would need to have in order to be successful? What do you think that those would be?
Your why. There's not enough kids with why. It's amazing, we going camp. We're doing this thing. We're calling. Hey, what's your why? Oh, I want to be the best player. That's not enough. Because why? When you get tough, that ain't gonna push you through it. No. That's why I got the "Are you hungry?" hat. Like, that's not gonna push you through it. Like, when you're hungry for something, when something is important to you, like when a kid says he really wants a phone, he does anything to his mom and pop to get that phone. That's hunger. And the analogy of what I did with the wolf and everything else, people took it out of context, like, oh, wolves eat up sheep. No, that's not what I'm saying. And I'm not saying you got to starve to do it. You got to have a desire, because passion equals purpose. If your son or your daughter doesn't have passion, and you're leading them everywhere, and you're the ones telling them to go to practice, you're the one telling them that they need to work out, then that's not there. It's your journey. It's your journey, and you see in them, but not what they see in themselves. It's the opposite. It's when they waking you up. Come on, Coach Sean, we got to go. Hey, we got a game in about 20 minutes. We got to be early. Those conversations, those comments tell you the desire of what they want. And they do it anyway. They just do it for different reasons. But it may not be basketball. See, basketball is a poor man's game. Basketball and soccer are the two poorest sports you can play. And the reason why is because when you do soccer, all you need is a ball. You do basketball, if you got a goal, all you need is the basketball. Those other football, baseball, that's some serious money. Get some football equipment. Baseball, but basketball's poor. And what they don't realize is so many people playing. So many people playing. And if you don't have a love for this game beyond what you feel, if you don't have a love for this game that when you're going through trials and triumphs that you're going to get back up, pull your bridges up like, let's go, this ain't for you. Because there's always somebody more hungry than you are. That's why I talk about the wolf analogy. Wolves will find other wolves and eat. Wolves eat in groups. A sheep, you always got to protect a sheep. So you're either creating one of the two things. You know what I'm saying? You create that sheep. You will always protect that sheep. You always look after the sheep. You always make sure that sheep is fed. But a wolf will find a way to find others to eat and gather and get what they need to. And the problem is when we're talking about playing, a lot of these kids think they're hungry. Think about this, Sean. Every kid in the country think they work hard. Everyone, I worked hard. I had the hardest workout. And they don't really know it. They don't have blackout sessions. They don't have sessions where, let me give you one thing that's good. I used to test my guys, right, on how good practice was by what they did when it was time for them to go. So I'll be like, all right, that's it, practice over. And if they line up to dunk and shoot a three, I knew I didn't get the most out of them. But if they grabbed their bag and they left,
Quickly.
And they were gone, all right, coach. I was like, I squeezed that lemon. See, you can find out how good practice, even when you're doing a workout. Like, I tell guys now, it's hard to work out with me. Because what I'm going to do in a workout is not what you're used to. Because what trips me out is a kid will do a workout and not do game speed, but play the game at game speed. How do you play fast, but you work out slow? It doesn't, that analogy trips me out. Right. So that's it. I don't want to talk too much. But
no, we're here for you. So you talk as much as possible.
I'm just saying because the simple fact that they think they're hungry, they think they want something, but they don't know. It's amazing to me how much a kid thinks he wants something and he doesn't know. And part of it is we don't do enough of showing those kids the finish line. Like, because you've seen an NBA practice. Because you've seen the best players in the world work out. You already know that, but they don't. So here you are telling a kid to go hard, and he's looking at you like, you crazy. I am going hard. And you're like, that ain't fast. That ain't fast. Check this analogy. Gino from UConn did a great thing. A freshman came in, and he told a freshman to run fast down to the line in the back, right? I don't know if you know, you're probably laughing. And they did it. And he says, I tell you what. If you can run from here down in 10 seconds, I'll give you $100. Takes the $100 bill, puts it on the baseline, says, go. And he starts counting. And then he says, 10. And they didn't make it. Now that's fast. But they did it for the 100. You feel what I'm saying? Yeah. Now imagine if you got a kid who can do that all the time. Imagine if you got a high school kid that can move and move at a college level speed, a pro level speed now, that blow people by. But they don't. Because they got about 70% left in them that they don't really even go into. So that's the biggest thing. It's the hunger and the desire to want more. Now, how do you get into that? Find out what they really want. Because passion, like, what are you really trying to achieve? What do you really, really want? And in this workout, how hard do you think you want to go? So if this was a trial today and I was working you out and we had the USA coach here to make the USA team, how hard would you go today? That's going hard. Feel me? So
one thing I tell my players that train with me is to take every workout as a tryout. Right. Because you never know who's in the gym. Right. You don't know who I know. Right. Every opportunity to be on the court is an opportunity to potentially, for one, get better, but also a potential for somebody to see you and say, I like that kid. I want that kid. And I think too many times these kids are delusional about, or let me not say delusional. They're not honest with themselves about.
I'll say the delusional about, but go ahead.
About where their skill level is and how hard they actually work. And we see that in core all the time, right?
True.
We ask the kids at the end, like, who worked the hardest today? And every single kid raises their hand. But every single kid didn't work the hardest.
True.
You ask the kid, who wants to be a pro?
That's right.
Everybody raises their hand. Okay, which one of you guys have even gone to a high school practice?
True.
Right? So we have these kids that have this like ideology of what being a pro and being successful looks like because they see things on Instagram and they start thinking, oh, well, I can do that. I can do that. But what you don't see is everything else in between, right? Is that kid was up every morning before school.
That's right.
Getting a workout in. Even during season, they're getting a workout in, right? They're the ones that are hitting up the coach. Hey, can I get into the gym today?
Exactly.
It's those sorts of players. And I think, part of it is that culture of like, you see things on Instagram and you think that it's all reality. Right. And the other part of it is like, as coaches, there's nobody really being honest with kids and saying, hey, this is really what it takes.
True.
Because at the end of the day, right, as trainers, you want the kid to come to you and pay you money to train.
Right.
So a lot of times coaches aren't going to be honest and say, hey, I just don't think that you got it.
Right.
Because if that money's coming in, I'm happy, right?
Right.
And so I think that you see that a lot within just the culture of basketball now.
Yeah, because you got more trainers. Because before, our trainers used to be the playground. Our trainers used to be 5-on-5, and so we stopped that. But the thing for me is that kids need to know every time you're on the court between those lines is an interview. You're being interviewed every time. That's an interview. And that interview is for 75,000, 85, or whatever the NIL is. That's your interview. Yep. And they have to remember that. The second part is this, though. In order for you to finish something that's extremely hard, you have to have something inside yourself. Because in adversity, whatever happens in adversity, and I did an analogy one time when I had the Pepsi Cola, I was talking to kids and tell them, you know, when I shake this bottle up, what's going to come out? They're like, oh, Coke. Is orange going to come out? No. Is orange soda going to come out? No, Coke. That's what it is in them. When they get hit hard, whatever's in here come out. And what could come out is blaming, envy, jealous, you know, all that comes out of you in adversity because that's what's inside here. And we don't put enough in here for them to deal with it. It goes back to that plank with the foundation. And that foundation is what's at home. That foundation, like there's certain kids even in our program that work hard and got their head down because of what they've been built inside their home. I'm going to come in here, I'm going to put my head down, I'm going to work. But it's tough to do that. It's tough. It's even tougher now with social media than it was when I was growing up because there's so many distractions for these kids. So it's tough for you to get a kid. I remember there was a time I could probably get an 8th grader, stay with them through high school, and that kid could probably be one of the top players in the country. It's unheard of to do that now. Mm-hmm. Unheard of. Because there's so many distractions. Think about it. You can work with a kid at 6th, 7th, 8th grade, and when he becomes a great 8th grader, he's going to have a meeting with you talking about he's going over here because the water's cold, or ice is colder. Mm-hmm. Ice is colder. Oh, Sean, I know what you've done to get me here, but now I think it's time over there. And there's a point in that, but there's not a point in that until you start to evaluate and analyze yourself to see efficiency and productivity. And what our kids base it upon, minutes and points. They forget all the other columns. The only column they look at is minutes and points. They don't see effective productivity. And what we do is on social media show all the highlights of a kid shooting 80 shots and getting 34 points and whatever else. We don't show the kids who are really grinding. And what happens is in 10 years, the kid you ain't never heard of, the one you never talked about, is still chopping wood and carrying water. And that kid is gone and this kid is up on top of the mountain. Mm-hmm. That's the difference.
Yeah, it's so funny. Whenever I ask a kid, how'd your game go? I had 14 points. Like, that's the first thing that they tell you. But you look at somebody like Draymond Green, right? He was an all-star at one point in time. He plays the game at such a high level.
Right.
You're never looking at the box score and saying, wow, he had 30 points.
Right.
You're just looking, and if you really know basketball, you're able to analyze and say, wow, he's created really 70 points.
Exactly.
Because he set screens, he got extra possessions, right? He cut to the basket, he read the offense, he got stops on defense.
That's right.
All of the things that are not like charted on at the end of the game as far as for the box score.
True.
All of those things he's doing.
Right.
And I think that's become lost a little bit in this sort of generation, right? It's all about shooting, it's all about scoring. And that kind of leads me to my next question for you, which is the training industry as a whole.
Right.
You're on the coaching side, right? I train.
Right.
If I was training one of your players,
Right.
what would you say that you would want me to collaborate with you on in regards to how I would train that player?
That's good. That's good because this is the only industry that I know we don't do that. We don't do that in music. If you're part of an orchestra and you're training a person in music, I'm sure that they have to talk to the person because it's mutual. How do you plan in helping kids if everybody's on the same page? I mean, not on the same page.
Right.
You got 7 people in 7 different directions in this kid's head, and so he can't aim at the basket because he's aiming to please 5 people. He can't aim at the basket because he's aiming to please my trainer. I'm aiming to please my mom. So now the pressure for making that shot, it's everything because I got the trainer, I got my mom and dad, I got the coach, and I have to try to make this shot for everyone. So he can't make it. He can't aim at the basket because he's aiming at all these people to please. Mm-hmm. And the basket can't be. Now the basket is smaller and smaller. The basket is only huge when everybody's on the same page. And if you don't have a plan, remember, all this is talking about planning. How did this plan help this plan? Like, only in sports can people come into your industry and start to tell you what to do. They have no conclusion. Like, I'm up here and I listen to some kids who come in here, and I was waiting for my team one time. It was so funny, and we were in a corner, and I was like asking one of my players, why is so and so over there sitting down when the team should be over here? And the kid said to me, he's with his coach. Now I'm his high school coach, and he said he's with his coach. I thought it was more. I was like, wow. That's what he said to me. He said, my coach. I was like, oh, that's his coach. Oh, okay, all right. So, and the kid didn't have a great game shooting, but now I know, because look what's in his mind and his head. Now, how should it look? The trainer comes over me, hey, coach, how's he doing? Boom, boom, boom. He comes over. We all three talking. We all collaborating. We're all on the same page. We don't do that. We don't do that. We only look at production on, again, points and minutes. We don't talk about how you can affect the game without the ball. Think about with the trainers. Like, in the NBA, I would say, 70-80% of these players are role models? I mean, role players, not role models, role players. So look at the amount of role players in the NBA we have that are not guys who do score a lot of points. But we would take a kid, work him out to go into a program to score a lot of points, and when he gets to that program, that's not even his role. His role may be setting screens, pick and pop, or passing and cutting, or whatever else. So we don't teach them how to move without the ball. We don't teach him to pass and cut. We just teach him how to create all new. And when he gets to me, he's not going to do that, because he ain't going to have the ball in his hand like that. So now he's on two separate pages. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, and I think that I had a follow-up question to that, which is, what would you, if you could pick something, what would you want to improve or change on within the training industry of how players are currently being trained? You kind of answered some of that, but maybe you can touch on that more.
Moving out the ball, or passing and getting the ball and relocating. Like, it doesn't have to be 90% of the time having the ball in your hand, because who's going to do that? How many games will you see somebody with the ball for 90% of the time? You have some kids that do it, but you don't have all. But why would a trainer teaches a kid if he doesn't know the kid's role in that team? Like, that doesn't make sense to me. Like, you need to know the role of that kid and what he's going to do, but also you need to know the strengths. He might be a kid who just, hey, listen, he finishes good, or he passes, or he's a slasher. A kid who can pass and go weak side and then flash to the ball to the free throw line or whatever. Like, slashers. How do you teach a kid to be a slasher? You can't teach a slasher if you're doing it. And then the biggest thing, oh, please forgive me, because I'm really getting into that. The biggest thing is, how do you start to work out a group of kids the same way? How do you take 80 kids in the gym and work them all out the same way when they don't play the same position? Can you believe that? Listen, there's like 80 ways to skin a cat up in here. Like, you serious that even if this kid is going to learn to be a guard, he doesn't know how to be able to be a point guard. So there's things, I might do finishes with point guards around the basket. I may tell my wings how to pass, relocate, cut, get to the corners fast, and shoot a three, get to the elbow, and then back up for a three and hit the free throw line, pull right. Like, they all have to be worked differently. I can understand how because it's money, which I understand, because I'm not trying to mess anybody's game up, because that's not what I'm trying to do. But how do you not go, this is what I like about the training field, and do, is go back and relearn how you can help other kids. Because if you can chase money for a little while, but the ones who are really, really good, the ones who are going to be real productive, it's not going to be that way. I'm a kind of guy, I don't chase money, I chase relationships. And so for me, if I had a chance, a lot of times I work and get out for free sometimes. I don't want you to think that I do it all the time, because I don't. But I work out for free because I want to see what a kid looks like, and I want to be able to help and give pointers out. And I've done this for such a long time. Doesn't mean I'm a master. But I'm going to tell you something. I'm going to go to the Final Four, and I'm going to learn some new stuff. And I'm going to try to rebrand, and I'm going to try to go ahead and recreate myself. And a lot of these coaches and trainers don't go back to relearn on how they can help kids. They teach the same thing for the last 5 years. They stay in their little pocket of the community, and those kids run to them, and they're not helping them. They're setting them up for failure. So, I hope that answers your question.
No, it definitely does. Talk more about practices for you.
Okay.
And what are the skills that you're prioritizing to work on within your practices?
Well, that's good, because I'm a practice planner. I know you know, because my sheet, because I'm off the chain. One is, I always try to do a little bit of skill development in the first 10 to 15 minute practice. Because really, when the season comes, the team gets better, the individual really doesn't get better. But I can do some things to sharpen the stuff that we do. Sure. That's important for us. The second thing is, I want to take some time for them to understand the concept of how we play the defense. because that's important for me. Like, we need to conceptualize, because whatever you spend the most time on is what you're really trying to get an identity of. So if your identity is offense, you're going to spend more time on it. If your identity is fast break, you're going to spend, if it's pressing, my identity is defense. I want our kids to learn how to play defense, because they all want to play offense. They know that. So, excuse me, when it comes to that, my process is making sure they understand that. And the second part is when the offense comes, how to play it in angles, how to play in speed and direction, because our kids don't understand that. You know, they don't understand the second gear. They don't understand every time you change direction, the speed has to change too. Some kids just move the same speed. And so that helps me along with film. I love film. I think film is one of the greatest assets a kid has that they don't look at. I think coaches need to do a better job with film. I think we need to do a better job of showing kids what they do. And that's why I also film practices, so our kids can go back and see. And it's amazing to me when you look back on Huddle to see the amount of kids that don't even look at it. They don't even look at it. They just be like, yeah, I want to get better. And it goes back into what we talk about. You really want to get better, but you don't spend time mastering your craft. Can you believe that? Like, you talk about you really be a great player. You got 24 hours in a day. You're on social media more than you are looking at film, and you talk about you want to get better. Now how does that work? So my practice plan has to include things that I know they're not going to do on their own. So I'll suck it up out of them. You know? And so for me, I'd rather be with me long than than be with me short and assume they're going to do when they get home.
Right.
That's the difference.
And for you, how do you teach players that, like, hold on, let me re-ask that. How do you teach players to play within a role on teams, right? Because at the end of the day, we know that only a few people are going to score at the highest level. How do you get everybody else to embrace the fact that there are other things that you can do to help this team be successful?
Giving them roles. I do roles and depth chart roles. So I may say, this person is a two guard, this is who's behind him, and this is the third person behind him. And that's the role of what we want. And this person is a three, and this is what we want from that. And in this role, so-and-so, Ricky's first, Brayden's second, and somebody else's third. And why I put him first. And that kid may accept his role more. I may say, I'm putting this kid at a 4 position because he talks more and he rebounds. So that's what I'm looking for. You know, and then what also helps me is doing one thing about me is I'm a little crazy because I have a depth chart of practices, and we grade practices. So A means it start, B come off the bench, C you in the 2020 club, and D you don't play. So now you'll know within it what you need to do. Now at the end of it is a comment. That comment tells you what you need to work on. And I said to our guys this year, it was right after Christmas, if I haven't erased your comment, then you haven't gotten better in this. If your comment is the whole time that you don't talk and you can't play through contact, that means you're not getting better in this. That means you're staying the same. And if you're staying the same, you're getting worse. So and now it allows them to know their role, what they need to bring to the table, because, we're going to talk about, I'm not afraid to say, listen, we're going to get that ball to Ryder because he needs to get more shots. But also he practiced like he plays. And because of it, we're going to reward him. Now, any one of y'all could do the same thing. But you're going to have to practice that way too. But it starts in practice.
Can you elaborate on the 2020? I mean, I know what it is, but...
The 2020 club is up by 20, down by 20.
Is when you play.
When they play. That's right. So if you see them clapping at 16, they're just trying to get the team to get to 20 points. So that's what it is.
No, that's really good. And I think the level of detail that you have is what's helped you be successful at every stop that you've gone to. If you had to decide or pick one thing that you want players to take away from their time with you and a part of your program, what would that be and why?
Time management. Time management of how well you want to be. See, I'm a true believer. In order for you to get something you never have, you got to do something you've never done. If you keep doing the same thing, your results are the same. See, you're exactly where you are based on everything you've done. And what happens to me is that I'm a hard guy to play for. I'm a little bit of old school, a little bit of twisted new. I'm not going to sugarcoat things to make you feel good. I'm not that guy. But what's great that I think about that attributes to me is that I've been around, like I just had a chance to coach Paul George 2 years ago, and then I also coached West Rams. I know the difference of kids who really love it and kids who don't. It's really quick for me. It's really easy. And so what happens in my program that people leave really quickly is they are one of two things. They're either asset or liability. See, when they come to your program, they're either the faucet or the drain. They're either pouring water in or they sucking water out. You just got to figure out which one they are. That's one of the two they are. And you have to be careful. For every one kid that's a bad kid, you need 6, 7 good kids around them to tell them what to do. I'll never pick, and I learned that with Lebo, I'll never pick a kid who's a problem if I don't have 7 kids to tell them to straighten up. Now, if I got 7 kids and they're not going to talk and they're just going to watch it, then you don't need to take a chance on that kid. Only take a chance on a kid that has a core of kids that be like, yo, we don't do that here. Once you get that, you can take a risk. And what I've learned with kids about just a tribute to like being great is that good is the enemy of great. It is tough for a kid to really want to be great. And it starts at home with the foundation, with the seed I talk about. Like I said, when you put that seed in the ground, it's growing 2 directions. You may not even see that great break ground for a while. And what happens to a lot of kids, they want to see break ground so they can tell everybody around what they're doing because you're playing for the wrong reason. If you have to contribute what he's doing and what he's doing, you're playing for the wrong reason. Because this ain't no sprint, my man. This is a marathon. This is a long distance run. Those guys, imagine this. You know how many kids who've been picked first round that have a shorter career than guys who've been second round? You know what I'm saying? So everything that glitter ain't gold. But there's something in the process of a second round kid who stayed 3 or 4 years in college who has sustained it, who are now playing 9 or 10 years. And also they develop. They have changed and say, you know what? I used to be averaging 20 points like Grand Theft Auto. Now I'm going to come in here, I'm going to be a defensive man, but I'm going to find a way to get on the floor. They're constantly changing, evolving. And we don't get a chance to let our kids evolve because you want to tell them what to do instead of them finding out what they need to do. They need to figure out, because they're not always going to be with you. They need to be able to, listen, the best thing a kid can do is write their own scout report. All right, I'm going to write a scout report on myself. What is it that I do that I need to get, somebody's got to stop me? You know, I do this, I do that, I do that. Maybe there's nothing on your scout report. Maybe you don't do anything. But maybe there's things about even cheering. See, even on the bench, cheering does something for you. I tell a lot of things. When my son was at Virginia, he didn't play. He was over there, Dad, I don't get it. Second. And he walked on because I told him, I was like, don't go to Virginia, go somewhere. No, I'm going to go to Virginia, I'm going to walk on. And he earned it. But the year, he just talked to me recently, he said the year that things flipped for him, when I said, you ain't going to sit long enough. When you sit long enough, you're going to change. When you sit, there's something about right here, there's something about this right here that'll change everything for you.
Bobby Knight.
Yeah, but you know the problem is? Mom and dad in that car ride telling you don't sit. Nope. We need to go somewhere else because it's green over there. See, you're going to change situations. It ain't the situations. You got to change yourself. Because when you change yourself in any situation, you're going to be successful because you're going to find ways to make it work for you. Like now we're adults and we have jobs. We figure ways of how to talk to our boss, how to move, because we can read the room and we can measure it. We don't teach our kids to do that. All right, what does coach really want? Okay, I need to figure, okay, he wants that, okay. All right, I know. Now, if it ain't what you wanted, leave. Really? Now, there are places where coaches you need to. Now, I'm just going to say, every coach ain't a great coach. But you got to learn where you're going to get fed at. Because a parent is not in a position to take a kid all the way to where they need to go. They think they are. Listen to this. I'm going to China, and my tour guide is a person who watched videos. He ain't never been to China before. And he going to show me all around China and tell me where to go. Now, who's going to follow him? Who's going to follow a guy that all he sees is videos in YouTube China to tell you where to go? That's parents. How you going to take somebody you ain't never been? You're going to take me on a tour that you ain't never been on a ride before. Like, that's the most craziest thing in the world. You're going to take me to a place you ain't never seen, never been. Now, if you want to do it and you put some time into it and you try coaching and you've been around and you've been a player, that's different. That's different. That's why you see a lot of pro players have kids who really been doing really well because they've been there and they have the attribute to help them. But some of these kids, they're disillusioned because of the simple fact that their parents, every time something happens, they're pulling them. And sometimes the best fight is a fight. Sometimes the best sit is a sit. Sometimes sitting helps you. Because it does 2 things when you go back to the dorm. A, do I really want to do this? B, what do I got to do now? What do I got to do now to fix it? Mom ain't next to me. Dad ain't next to me. He ain't in practice. Well, so what I got to do? So the question is, are the parents give them tools so that they have when they leave that they'll be able to use when they're not around. Imagine me putting together a bed and nobody gave me the tools to fix it. And I didn't even know how to use a screwdriver. That's the most ridiculous thing in the world. We got to give kids the tools to be able to use when they get hit so they can handle adversity. And that's the problem. When they get hit, they shook up.
Right.
And so, again,
let me tell you this story. You know, when I was in probably like middle school, I was playing on this travel ball team, and it was an all-boys team. Mm-hmm. And the coach, and I talked about this a little bit on the last episode, and the coach was really, really tough. And I remember I told my dad, like, I don't want to go. And, you know, he kind of looked at me and, you know, we had a conversation about it. And he was like, why? And I was like, it's hard. You know, like, we would go and play hard and we practiced hard. And I was the only girl on the team and we ran a lot. And his rule was you can't stop running until you finish first. Ooh. And, you know, just naturally I wasn't faster than the boys. Right. And so, like, I could be running for 10 minutes, 15 minutes because I just didn't have it, you know? It wasn't that I wasn't trying hard. I just physically couldn't do it. Right. And I remember my dad said, like, we're not stopping this. You're going to go until the season's over. Because when you commit to something, you do it, even if it's hard for you. And, you know, back then I was upset about it, obviously. Like, I felt like, oh, I don't want to do this, you know? But I realized what that taught me, which was like when things get hard, you don't just run. I have to buckle down and actually figure out, okay, how can I navigate this situation? How can I make the best out of the situation that I'm in? And so I think that's so important for kids to learn, and I do think it comes from the foundation of home. Right. But I say that to say, how do you help sort of instill hard work in your players when they're not necessarily receiving that foundation or that sort of push from the home?
I think talks like what I talk about, you know, the last time I gave an analogy about geese, and I said, do you realize that geese fly 70 miles further together than they do by themselves? And then when one goes down, they go down there. And I said, you want to know why they play defense and talk? And guys are like, geese don't play defense. I said, yes, they do. You don't never hear them, they're talking to each other when they're above you? I said, they do that to let them know they're all behind them. So then what's your problem? We have to give them analogies. We have to give them tools. And it's not going to gravitate all of them. Because some of them are not just going to get it. But the one thing I tell kids about quitting, when you quit something, it makes it easier for you to quit something else. And you have a pattern on how to quit. That's a pattern of behavior that you teach, that kids know, that they install. And I'm gonna tell you something in life. I have this young lady, man. She's the best. She's in DC. Her name is Rachel Minion. She is a beast. She had cancer. She's fighting. She's telling me a story, and she's telling me all the things she has to go through cancer. And something happened to her when she got out of surgery, and she's like, okay, she's an athlete. All right, okay, let's go. Let's buckle down and go. This girl should be Coach of the Year in DC. She should be National Gatorade Coach of the Year. Because she's coaching, she's doing track, and she has cancer, and she's fighting every day, and she doesn't quit. But that came from a long time ago. It didn't start when it happened. The foundation of her, fighting started a long time ago. See, we keep thinking about kids and playing and everything else. It's bigger than this. You think it's just basketball? Listen, anytime you use your body for work, it's the shortest career you're gonna have in your life. Anytime you use body, from construction to sports, whatever, anytime you use your body, it's going to be a short career. You have to teach them how to use that as a vehicle to get to where they need to go, because sooner or later that ball's going to stop bouncing. Now, how do you use the other tools? How do you move? How do you walk? How do you talk? So everything that we're talking about, from quitting to how you carry yourself, how you articulate, how you dress, and how you walk. This is what I say. You show me your friends, I'll show you your destiny. Show me the people you hang out with, I'll tell you where you're going to go. 100%. And I think we don't do enough of making sure that our coaches sit down with the coach and talk about, hey, this is what I want for him. And if it ever gets unbalanced, please go talk to him. I want my son to be the first to talk to you. And if he doesn't get what he needs, I just want to come in and remind you. But I'm bringing him in this program because there's some qualities I like about you. And I know there are going to be things you do that I don't like. I know it. See, they don't ever talk about that part. It's like marriage. You think when you say I do ain't no great stuff, it's going to be some stuff that's going to hit and that be like, what? I do with who? Because it's great now. But there are going to be some things that hit. We don't talk enough about, hey, coach, there's going to be some tough times. I know this. How are we going to work out that? When it's really tough and he's sitting and I can't understand it, how we work that problem? See, we already getting ahead of the roll right now. You know what I'm saying? Coach Sean, I'm dropping my son off to you, Coach Sean. Coach Sean, it's going to be some tough. I know sometimes, Coach Sean, you go off and you're going to look at him like he crazy and he's going to look at you, he's going to be mad. How does he get through that with you? We're like, they don't talk about that. They get in there and they talk about, is he going to start, Coach Sean? He's a freshman. You going to start him? And also, Coach Sean, he's got to get 15 minutes a game. So I'm like this. He get 15 minutes. Long as you know that he got to average 15 points a game. Every game, he better give me 15 points to get Blake's 4 steals and 6 rebounds. If he does that, you can get you 15 minutes. Because you want me to guarantee something you don't want to guarantee myself. And so the thing about it is that we don't look at this from a holistic point that trainer, parent, coach are all on the same page. And whenever you see that, it's good. The programs who do really or who are really successful, all that is in-house. The training is in-house, the coach is in-house, and the parent conversation is all in-house. And he's going to constantly have these conversations with parents. But parents know their roles. And that makes a beautiful program right there. That's what makes things good.
Who would you say has provided you the most sort of mentorship or knowledge that you feel like you're now using within your coaching?
That's a good one. I would say when I started out at Landmark, it was more college.
And tell me the best piece of advice they gave you too.
Drew Joyce. He said, if you care, you care. And I didn't know what he's talking about. I was like, if you care, you care. And it means if you care about the kids, it has nothing to do with basketball. You're going to care beyond them. You're going to care about them in the lunchroom. You're going to care about how they feel. So you're going to be able to see them and look in them after the game. You're going to know the one who's sad. You're going to look around, you're going to have a conversation, and one is feeling bad, and you can read it. And you care, you're going to stop and say, let me talk to him before he leaves. Larry Brown with he said one thing to me when we were in the DMV. I was sitting with him, and he said, I was coaching kids. I remember when he was at SMU and I was at Montrose. He came to recruit, and he said to me, he was the best, and I was struggling with the team at first. And he says, do you love your guys? Like you like coaching them? And I didn't understand, like, what's that got to do with coaching them? Like, what, but he's like, if you do, teach. Teach every day. Because if you teach them every day, they're going to get better. Just teach every day. Because there's things about coaching that you got to take away the record, and you got to go back like, are they getting better? And sometimes we're so caught up in win or loss that we forget, like, they got better, but we didn't see it. And peaking at the right time meant a lot. Those two guys are good. Steve Turner at Gonzaga in D.C. does an unbelievable job, man. This dude does an unbelievable job. I used to always talk to him during the season. He's a guy that can get academic guys and football guys and put it together, and he can build such a strong culture with guys to play together. Steve does a great job, man. There's numerous guys that I can name that I've been around that I have so much respect for. That Mike Jones, who now he's at Old Dominion. There's just a numerous group of guys that I look up to that I say, you know what, like right now, Rabibel does a hell of a job at Harvard Westlake. He does, and there's more guys out here that do a good job. Guys I probably don't name that I'm not mentioning, like Reg at Redondo, what he's done. Like there's guys that flip this thing. But I'm a guy who, when I started coaching, always looked at the best, and they was my measuring stick, because I wanted to be on top of the food chain. Kevin Ball, and you have all these dudes, Steve Smith at Oak Hill, and I was like, I want to be on top of the food chain. I want to do some things to make me separate from everybody else. And I had to learn to do the intricate, small things that most people don't want to do. And those small things is really paying attention to the heart of your guys. But what has shifted now is that if it left to the heart of our guys, and it leaked into what the parents want. And the parents have meetings all the time. And I'm not a big advocate of parents. I'm a big advocate of the turtle going into the ocean. I'm the one who says, hey, put the turtle down, let him crawl. Because they can't survive unless he crawls into that water. Because you're going to pick that turtle up and put it in water, it's just going to die. I need that turtle to crawl. It has to learn to use his hands, his legs. Because it gets into the ocean that's not ready, we're going to be in trouble. We're going to be in some serious trouble. And that's how I feel like the state is right now. Are we raising a sheep or a wolf? You know, we need to do a better thing to help our kids understand that struggle builds character and how to build themselves through the struggle and how to talk them through it. We don't do that. We take it away. Oh, no, that you can't struggle at all. But what happens when you're not around? What happens when you haven't built that foundation and basketball's over and they're struggling with something for real? What are they going to do then? How are they going to battle that one? Because you think it's just basketball right now. It's bigger than that. It's way bigger than that. It's life.
Speaking of life.
I said something wrong.
No, you're good. Tell me the biggest takeaway, the biggest impact, the biggest lesson that you've learned from your time being a coach, like off court.
Well, after I have a conversation with my son, I learned a lot from my son the other day playing for me. Coaching him. There were some things I should have did that I didn't do when it came to my kid, and I say I was so tough on my kids that I should have built them up a little bit more. And I think the biggest takeaway is that wherever you give doodle, you gotta give sugar. You have to really build these kids up. You can't just keep hammering. The biggest takeaway is that it's just an analogy about this frog, right? And this frog is trying to jump out of a hole, and all these frogs are jumping, and the one jumps and he doesn't make it. The second one jumps and doesn't make it, but the third one makes it. And all these frogs are down there, and so they ask the frog, "Well, how did you jump out of the hole?" And he says, "Well, all the frogs was yelling and screaming. I thought they was cheering because I'm deaf." You know what I'm saying? So it's an analogy, the fact that encouragement goes longer than getting on our kids. And my balance has to be better with that because I'm old school, because it was reversed at one time. I think we have to do a better job of encouraging them and showing what they can do than what they can't. That's probably the biggest thing that I think I've taken away now that I need to grow.
Well, I just want to say thank you so much for stopping by and for sharing your wisdom. 30 years of coaching is no joke.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to thank you again for stopping by. Before you leave, can you please share with people that may be interested in learning more about you, somewhere that they can reach you, whether it's a social media, whether it's a website, somewhere where people can reach you to either follow you, connect with you, learn more about you. And you can just say that right into the camera.
Oh, no problem. I will give you my phone number, but I don't need anybody calling no more. But nah, I won't play with you. I would tell you, they laugh because I'm so old school. They're like, "What are you doing, man?" But anyway, I would say on Instagram, my handle is Coach B Bart. Coach, 2 B's, BBART. You can find me there, and there's a link on there for a website that if you want inquiries about me coming in and talking, whatever, go to Coach B Bart on Instagram, and you can get me. Easy money.
Thank you so much. I appreciate
it. Come on, girl. I got you.